I knew something was wrong the moment my mother's voice softened. She only spoke gently. When she was about to humiliate me, it drifted across the dinner table like a warning breeze before a storm, and every muscle in my body tightened. My family was already laughing at some half-formed joke about my little projects. The same ones they said would never lead anywhere. I'd heard it all before. That I wasn't ambitious enough, loud enough, ruthless enough. What they never realized was that quiet isn't the opposite of dangerous quiet. Is a mask danger wears before it learns to speak? The last time I let them get to me, I was 17. Standing in our hallway while my brother redlined my scholarship essay with a smirk so smug it echoed. "No one's going to take you seriously if you write like you're scared," he said. I remember the feeling of heat behind my eyes, the way I swallowed it down, the way I thanked him anyway. That night, I lay awake listening to the house breathe around me, promising myself I'd never give them the satisfaction of seeing me break again. What I didn't know then was how useful their underestimation would become when adulthood arrived. It came with bills, obligations, and the grim freedom of distance. I built my life quietly, brick by deliberate brick, late night studying, early morning meetings, 1,000 small decisions that no one noticed. My family assumed my silence meant I was failing. They never asked how I afforded my apartment. They never wondered why I stopped asking for advice. They certainly didn't know that the little projects they mocked were evolving into something that made my hands tremble with the thrill of purpose. I learned to forge digital paper trails not for crime, but for protection. I learned which financial disclosures were public, which weren't, and how to examine them with a surgeon's precision. Most importantly, I learned to listen. Listening is how you discover that people expose themselves long before they realize it. So by the time I sat at that dinner table again, older, calmer, and far less breakable, I had already gathered what I needed. My father's consulting firm, for instance, had been skirting tax requirements for years. Nothing overt or cinematic, just a steady drip of sloppy bookkeeping and conveniently missing forms. My mother had a savings account she pretended didn't exist, one she used for weekend trips with a woman she called a friend from work. And my brother, golden child, family pride, self-proclaimed genius, had been quietly siphoning money from our grandmother's trust, under the assumption no one ever checked the statements of a woman with fading memory. I didn't need to ruin them. I just needed them to understand they couldn't ruin me. So when my mother's voice went soft at dinner, and everyone turned to me with that expectant smirk, the one that said, "Go on, disappoint us," I smiled. The kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes, the kind that people only recognize once it's too late. "Actually came to tell you something," I said. The table fell into that heavy hush they only reserved for news that involved scandal or shame. They were ready, eager even to hear that I'd been fired, dumped, evicted, or anything else that might confirm their fiction of my inadequacy. Instead, I told them the truth. I told them about the company I'd founded, the acquisition offer I'd received, the numbers high enough to make my brother choke on his drink. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't gloat. I simply laid it out like evidence on a table, calm, precise, unavoidable. For a moment, none of them moved. Then everything scrambled at once. My mother leaned in first, eyes bright with the kind of interest she only showed when she wanted something. My father cleared his throat and attempted a congratulatory tone that wobbled with calculation. My brother forced a laugh, loud and sudden, as if volume might disguise the panic tightening his jaw. I watched it all silently, feeling nothing but a cool, deliberate satisfaction, not because I'd succeeded, but because their reactions revealed everything I needed to know. People show their true loyalties when money enters the room. Later that night, while they fought over who should help guide my next steps, I excused myself and walked down the hallway that once held the ghost of my teenage self. I remembered standing there years earlier, clutching my red line to say. That younger version of me had no idea she was growing sharper inside the silence. When I returned to the dining room, they were still arguing, already positioning themselves for access, for influence, for whatever pieces they imagined they could carve from my future. They didn't notice me standing in the doorway. They didn't see the small recording device in my hand. It held every word they'd said the moment they thought I was gone. Admissions of intent, manipulation strategies, even mentions of how they could use my success to clean up some of their own messes. They'd handed me the final piece without realizing it. I stepped back into the room and placed the device on the table. The argument died instantly. My brother paled first. My father's jaw set. My mother opened her mouth. So many excuses fighting to be born that none of them made it out. "I'm not here for revenge," I said softly. "I just want you to understand something. You can't use me. Not anymore." They stared in frozen silence as I explained that copies of the recording, along with certain financial files I compiled, were already secured and time-stamped. Not released. Not threatened. Simply prepared. Evidence doesn't need drama to have power. It only needs to exist. Their expressions collapsed inward: fear, guilt, wounded pride, but I felt none of it. No triumph, no anger. Just clarity. I left the house without another word, stepping into the cool night, letting the quiet wrap around me like a long-awaited answer. Some stories end with flames and fury. Mine ended with preparation, boundaries, and a silence sharp enough to draw blood. And as the wind moved through the trees, I thought about how strange it is that the same shadows that once frightened me now finally felt like home. If you want to hear more stories carved from quiet shadows, stay close. If this story made you feel something, drop a like. Comment "I choose myself" if you believe in self-worth over validation. Hit subscribe for more stories that remind you how powerful you really are.